we have a conversation, special one for especially parents and caregivers, and we want to have a chat about the 4 crucial stages of parenting. Because one of the things that has become apparent on this show is all of life is a skill. You need to learn how to manage the different stages of life, and I think parenting is at the top of these skills that we need to learn. And so we felt it was important for us to have that conversation.
Growing up comes in stages.
Yes.
Now, the role of a parent is to know that this is true and to maximize. That's why we are talking about the 4 stages.
Yes.
Maximize these 4 stages so that at the end of the day, you can give yourself credit and say, I did a good job.
I did my best.
I did my best.
Welcome back to Reality Check. My name is Rachel Mwine. We are glad that you are back with us this week for another hopefully inspiring conversation. This channel cares for hearts and minds, and we have conversations on mental health in the areas of family, marriage, your relationships, and the workplace. So if that's something that you are interested in, you are very welcome. If this is your first time, please do consider subscribing to our channel and share this episode with a friend. Today we have a conversation, special one for especially parents and caregivers, and we want to have a chat about the 4 crucial stages of parenting. Because one of the things that has become apparent on this show is all of life is a skill. You need to learn how to manage the different stages of life, and I think parenting is at the top of these skills that we need to learn. And so we felt it was important for us to have that conversation. Joining me to do that is none other than our resident expert, Dr. Eva Satwine. She is a therapist, she's a life coach, a parenting coach, a marriage counselor, and so pre-marriage, post-marriage. If you need support in any of those areas, please do make an appointment. We'll leave our contacts on the screen so that you can find the help that you need. Welcome, Dr. Eva.
Thank you so much, Rachel.
Good to have you back.
Sure, thank you.
So, parenting, a very hard job. You're raising a human being to be sensible, impactful in the world that we live in today. And there are 4 stages, these 4 stages that we want to discuss. Maybe as a starting point, could you perhaps break down what these 4 stages are and maybe explain why each stage is essential in a child's development? Yeah.
Thank you so much, Rachel. I think I'll start with reminding viewers again that the parenting window is the biggest window in shaping a human being. And again, I've shared here that that window contributes 80% to the entire human being, because we, according to science, we are born with only 10% deposit to be good humans. So shaping a human being, a good human, 80% window is parenting, and then another 10% self-improvement, right? So this is a very important window, and number one, it's important to have skill. So it's one thing to be a mother and a father, but it's another to be a parent. So a parent is a skilled person shaping the destiny of a child. Secondly, to know that growth, the little one grows in stages. And so we can't possibly just be the same. That requires that a parent also changes in their parenting approach. So that's why we are talking about stages. So to answer your question, the stages, we have 4. And the reason we are doing this session is so that parents can observe these 4 stages and maximize the 4 stages.
Yes.
Because then at the end of the day, you need to give yourself credit and say, I did my very best. So stage number 1 is 0 to 5 years, or what we call the under 5. The under 5, that stage is called discipline stage. So that discipline stage, that's where we are teaching children the basic principles of life. Basic. Number one, you recall that I mentioned that 0 to 1.5 is a human being is living purely on pleasure.
Yes.
Right? And if I could make reference to Psalms 51, where the psalmist says, in sin I was born.
Yeah.
We are all born in sin. Which is this sin? The sin of self-centeredness, sin of selfishness.
Selfishness.
So we are basically thinking about ourselves and no one else. So this age range, the 0 to up to 5, which is the under 5, we help a child to know, number one, the basic boundaries of life. This is important. Please consider other people. We are teaching them the reality principle that I talked about here, that life is not about you, it's also about other people. So consideration for other people. So we help them to get over the self-centeredness. That's when we start singing them songs like sharing is so good.
Yes,
you
sharing
see?
is caring. Yes.
Sharing is caring.
Yeah.
Those kinds of principles. So we introduce the principles of life that transcend self-centeredness. And so we help them to know, secondly, that they cannot have what they want now.
Yes.
Right? So we introduce patience. We help them to know that, yes, you can need something, but you can wait. Wait. So we say wait. You see? And when we are doing that, we are introducing the principle of emotional regulation. So you can wait. But key thing here is that we also introduce, we start nurturing conscience. The first 5 years, conscience, the difference between right and wrong.
Yeah.
And so at this stage, this is the most crucial stage of parenting, because you're introducing principles. And so a child needs to know that this is right and this is wrong, and there is no gray area. Now, unfortunately, when we don't do this, that's when you hear people say it depends.
Okay.
So this is a very, very, very crucial stage.
Yeah.
Now, key thing about this stage is that a child is operating on what we call concrete thinking. Concrete thinking is basically that a child's brain only takes in what has been given. They are thinking only about the concrete you have put in, if I may put it that way. So we have to put in enough concrete for them to, or we need to write on their concrete what we write on their concrete. You've heard a statement that a child's brain is like wet cement. What you write there stays there. Now, I know parents complain and say, oh, I don't know, I teach my child, they are not getting it. Don't worry, it's there. It's there. You've planted it there. You've written it there. He probably, or she, is not yet processing it, but you're writing on their concrete.
Yes.
So key thing for parents is, what are you writing there? Are you clear on what you're teaching? Are you defining proper boundaries and saying, this is it? This is it. This is right. This is wrong. If it is right on Monday, it is still right on Sunday. If it is wrong on Monday, it is wrong on Tuesday, on Wednesday, up to Sunday. You see? And so we need that kind of consistency. But let me emphasize the concrete thinking. Now, at this stage, a child is not really highly interrupted by so many other things, because they are still confined within
family,
the boundaries of family. And that's a great opportunity. If we take advantage of that stage, the things we write there, a child knows that's what it is. They will never forget it. I think that's where scripture in Proverbs 22:6, train up a child in the way they should go, and when they grow up, it doesn't say when they are still children. No, it says when they grow up. They will not turn away from it. It means that we are sowing seeds we are writing. We are putting a writing on their concrete. We are imprinting their brains. And so it will not get away. They will refer to it. I've never forgotten a certain preacher here in Uganda. He was talking about, he was a very senior person here. He was heading a corporation here, and he was preaching, and he was remembering what the mother taught them when they were sold. He said, when we were about 3.
Many years ago.
Many years. He was like 60. He's referring to what their mother taught them when they were about 3. So this is a very, very crucial stage. Can I remind parents that 90% of character formation is done under 5 years. So this is a very crucial stage. That's why
a small window.
It's a small window, but really massive. So the things we teach here are so crucial.
Yeah.
We teach children those boundaries, but also we help them to know the consequences of behavior. I also want to emphasize that here. Now, unfortunately, most parents teaching consequence of behavior, they only punish.
Yes.
They only punish.
Yes.
They don't reward. Because, you know, when you do reward system is more effective than chiboko, you know, at this stage. Because when we give more chiboko, a child's brain freaks out, you know, they get into flight mode, they get confused. So you need to give them sufficient time to understand that good behavior gets rewarded. And we could actually withdraw benefits instead of chiboko, because chiboko tends to create flight mode. And then a child's ability to comprehend things, to process things to the end gets impaired.
Yeah.
So it's very important that we take advantage of this stage. Just imagine, just the first 5 years, if we gave that attention, then you get 90% benefit. So it is so important that parents do this. That's why whenever I'm doing parenting classes, I tell especially moms who nurture the most delicate part, because we are the ones that nurture conscience more than the dads. Because all these, actually the first 5 years, it is detail oriented. So it is care, it is compassion, it is patience, it is humility, it is all that, it is this is right, this is wrong. Those details are nurtured by moms. Mostly. And so I always encourage moms to please take advantage of this. This is not a time to probably do an international job and leave your child there, because it's an important window.
Important stage, yes.
Probably you want to adjust your priorities in terms of career or anything else because of this window, because it's 90% character formation. The second stage is called training. So training is so this was under 5. So from 5 to 12 years is training. Now this stage emphasizes the why behind every what.
Okay.
Right? Remember, we have introduced principles here, and so the children begin asking, why, mommy? And so it's very important for us to make it clear and say, you see, you're doing this because of this. You see, when you sulk, this is what happens. And most importantly, to help parents know that the why should not be about the parent, it should be about the child.
Not because I said so. We don't say because
because I'm your mother. Because this family don't shame us. So it's important to then reinforce the principles we have introduced, especially boundaries, especially conscience. You know, right and wrong. Why is it right? So this is a stage where we train children on the values. These values, this is how you do things, you know. So it's not just what we were introducing, don't do this, but this is how to do it. This is how to do it. You know, if you're going to be kind, this is how you be kind. You see, if kindness is in doing some little acts then do it. If it is in nurturing little relationships, then give a gift. So it is training. You unpack it and break it down, and now a child knows that, oh, okay, so this is how things are done. Small little pieces.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So if you're going to, for instance, teaching how forgiveness or repentance, you see?
Yeah.
This is how you do it. For instance, at this stage, we train children. If you're going to apologize, this is how you apologize. You see? You don't add a but after
an apology.
an apology. So that is training. That is training. Now, the third stage is the 13 to 19. This is another huge window.
Yeah.
So these are the teenagers. Teenage stage is just as crucial as the 0 to 5, because this is a very, very delicate window. Remember, until this time you've been dealing with a baby or young or little child. But here, this window is the teenage window where children now, it's a transition stage where they are getting out of their childhood identity, moving towards the adulthood identity. So they are not adults, they are not children, they are in between. So that's why it's called a transition stage. This transition stage comes with so much growth, both cognitively and physically. By this stage, or within this window, we know that the physical changes. We tend to be aware of the physical changes that are happening, hormones, body changes, and parents are trying here. Of course, it's very challenging. This is the most challenging stage, very delicate. It needs to be navigated well.
Yeah.
As a matter of fact, in psychology, we see that most of the adult struggles originate from this stage. So they have so much to deal with. Number one, the body is changing. So it is quite confusing. So many changes are happening. And so they are saying, oh, this is how I look like. So there is lots of identity issues here. You know, that's why most teenagers get into what we call identity crisis, because they're saying, am I enough? Am I not enough? I'm not like that person. Look, the hips, the what, all the body image, all those begin at this stage. So parents need to be with the children. But also cognition, brain development. This is a window for huge brain development, what we call cognitive development. So now the brain is expanding and looking at the horizon and seeing so many things. And so parents need to take advantage of this and guide children. Yeah. You know, the things you're seeing. So this is, for instance, where you hear most children start questioning. They are no longer taking little instructions of discipline. They are actually questioning what you have taught them. Yeah. And so they start asking, do I have to do this to be this? Do I have to go to school to be rich? That's when they want to be Bill Gates. Yeah. And I don't know who other...
Yeah. All the celebrities.
All the celebrities in the world. Yeah. That's when they start questioning systems that have nurtured them, like religion. Yeah, you hear children say, do I have to go to church to meet God?
Can't I do it at home?
Can't I do it alone? I do, from time to time, I speak to teenagers. And at this stage, we meet so many teenagers who are saying, I can do self-teaching. I've had so many who want to do self-teaching. They want to come out of the mainstream school and do self-teaching. And so when I'm talking to them, I say, oh yeah, you know, you can do self-teaching, but let's explore this. To which end? So if you do self-teaching and you don't have a certificate, there's something called certification. So how will you compete in the entire world, like in this whole workspace or consulting space? They say, but I have the skills, but how will you market them? Do you know how the process of marketing your skills. You know, how will you compete at that? One of them told me, I don't have to compete. I said, you see, the whole world is about competition because resources are scarce.
Yeah.
And so you need to compete.
Sure.
So how will you, if you teach yourself computer, which is now the thing, if you teach yourself computer and you have skills, gladly, yes, you can. Absolutely, you can. But then how will you compete with the person who has a degree in computer science? Right?
Yeah.
So if they advertise for a job, how do you think you'll get? They say that will be self-employed. By who?
By
Then who will you work for?
Yeah.
You see? So there is a lot of conversation that needs to happen. Now, because parents, most of the time we are not prepared for this stage. We are used to, yes, mommy, yes, daddy, which is always in the first stage, 0 to 5.
And some of the training
stage. Then we really struggle. We struggle. So this is a stage we call coaching stage. So coaching stage is for teenagers. Please don't try to discipline them the way you are disciplining them.
At 0 to 5?
At 0 to 5. And I've seen parents struggle. They still want to give chiboko to a teenager who is taller than them. And the teenager looks at you.
We'll talk about the mistakes.
Yes, if you're lucky, they will lie down, you can,
and they'll walk away. Sometimes they might even fight.
Sometimes they fight. Yeah. Yes. So it is very important for us to know that at this stage you're coaching them. It's no longer training, but you're coaching them. Remember you told them. So now you're doing the coaching role, reinforcing the hows. This is how you do it, the how you do it, the how you do it. Remember the previous stage was the what, the why behind every. But here there is a lot of how you do it. This is how you do it. At this stage, of course, I've talked about, before I've talked about emotions. This is a stage where most of the emotions, the hormones, rage at this stage. Children need a lot of guidance. Most of the sexuality scandals begin here. They happen at this stage. Yeah. Children make mistakes because they don't know what is happening to their bodies, because the opposite sex attraction is intense here. And so they need to know the boundaries. We need to reinforce boundaries at this stage more than any other. Remember before you were telling them and showing them, but here you need to reinforce them. You need to coach them on how to. How do you define boundaries? For instance, when someone says, I love you, what do you do?
And what does that mean?
What does that mean? Can you explain to them what that looks like? You know, what is love? Because they're going to be asking.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, by this stage, parents are not available.
Unfortunately.
They are not available with teenagers. Now, teenagers are exploring, parents are not available. Right?
Yeah.
Now, I should emphasize here, most of the hormones, opposite sex hormones, they actually increase 10 times, like testosterone in boys, 10 times more than any other stage.
Yeah.
So this is intense.
It is.
Absolutely intense for them. What does it mean? This girl, the attraction, how do they handle it? You see, how do they do emotional regulation? We need to teach them emotional regulation.
Yeah.
How do you regulate emotions? How do you deal with anger? How do you deal with lust? You know, how do you deal with lust? Now, most of the emotions have to be resolved at this level. Children need guidance. Boys need their dads to tell them what wet dreams look like. Mothers don't know wet dreams.
Yeah.
They can struggle, they can read somewhere, but they cannot explain because they haven't experienced them. And so parents need to be in the lives of their children. And can I just speak to dads? Please, dads, if you have a son, 13 to 19 years, that's a crucial stage. Yes, you're busy, yes, you're working, but please create time. Create time. And create time to be in the life of this child. Spend time with them, because at this stage they have so many questions.
Yeah.
And every question is valid.
Yeah.
There's no silly question.
Yeah.
Now, some parents shut them down and say, that's stupid, that's a silly question. There's no silly question. Answer every question.
Yeah.
And if you don't know it, step back and say, let me read about it. I'll come back to you. And when you promise you'll come back to them, come back to them.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. Go ahead.
I go ahead?
Yes, please.
Okay, so I could finish. Then, of course, the fourth stage is called friendship stage. Friendship stage. Now, friendship stage is 19 and above. This is where our children are getting into relationships, real relationships, ready to start marriages, ready to, they are in the job space. Now they are adults. Now, when they are adults, their expectations on us are totally different.
Yeah.
And I want to emphasize one major one is that they need help, but only when they ask.
That's a hard one for parents, yes.
So that is very, very hard for us, right? Now here, the previous stages, we offer help, but also at teenage stage, which is the coaching stage, we also need to offer help, keep the communication lines open, make sure your children can approach you, because I didn't mention, if you allow me to step back,
Please.
the previous stage, which is coaching for teenagers, this is a stage where they are looking for independence. Yeah? So they tend to step away from us a little bit, and they are trying to discover themselves. Now, when we follow them, then we need to follow with care, not in an accusatory manner where we say, now what's wrong with you? And there is a way they shut us out. I'm talking about the previous stage, the coaching, the teenagers. They shut us out by putting earphones, or they go to their rooms and don't want to talk to engage. Or even when they are there, they are quieter. Even the one who used to really chatter so much, they no longer want to, they don't talk more, because their brains have gone into discovery mode. They are not twisted, they are not confused, they are not wicked. It is normal. It is normal for them. So when they are discovering themselves, you need to approach them with calm rather than noise. Because noise disrupts their thinking process. Right?
Yes.
And so it's very important then to get in and ask, how can I support you? Right? So I came to this because I was talking about the above 19, where it is friendship stage. So friendship stage is really friendship. You don't just impose yourself on this child. You keep the communication lines open, tell them you are available to support them as and when, but then give them the freedom to be adults. Because when we impose ourselves on them, they get bored. They just get us out. They resent us. But when we keep it open, we are a good friend. And just think about a friend. So they know that dad or mom is just a support, a great support around me. And as I mentioned earlier, don't give advice when you're not asked. And when you are approaching, approach carefully. Even if you have seen something, ask them whether you could be supportive. Ask whether, if you have observed that they are coming off a certain way, maybe you suspect their marriage is not doing well. Maybe they are dating someone. I'll come to the dating. But their marriage is not doing well. Check with them. Ask them, would you like us to talk about something? But don't come and say, I've seen this. You see that approach. That's why I started with maximize each stage with the right approach. So at this stage, if you come as a boss, they're going to resent you as a parent. So we need to be very, very careful how we support. But when you come and ask and you say, I've observed something. In my work, I've got like young married people who come to me, and which we encourage so much, to talk to a neutral person. And they don't want to burden their parents. They say, we don't want our parents to know this, because we might break their hearts. So they are not refusing to connect with you for any wrong reason. They are just sparing you, or and they want to keep things private because now they are managing things. So we have to empower them, empower the empowering stage that started with the coaching. And at this time, just reinforce that. But as much as possible, step out and let them ask for help. Once again, if you're offering it, do it. But let me say something about choosing life partners. And even jobs. I've seen parents invade the workplace, children's workplaces to discipline their bosses.
Wow. It's crazy.
So when we do not create enough independence, it is going to be chaotic. So it's especially regarding career, which again started in the coaching stage, where a child is trying to find out where they want to go and all. And if we were patient enough, I'm looking for the right word, not to say wise enough, but patient enough at the coaching stage to work with the child to tell you which career they want to pursue, and without imposing ourselves again, because some parents want to reward themselves through their children. I missed out on doing engineering, you have to do it. So if you started there, then the friendship stage is going to be very difficult because you are imposing yourself. Now, regarding jobs, if a child is looking for a job, or they think, or maybe they are struggling with a job, even when you're going to give advice, be careful. But choosing partners, this is where most of us parents struggle. And we struggle not because we don't have good reasons. Sometimes we want to determine who the child will marry. It's confusing. We mean well, but as much as possible, let's play the friendship role. Let's ask questions. Let us ask questions and say, are you sure that's the person? Have you found out that? Have you checked? Have you done good background check? Have you anything you want to ask? Let this not be your decision, parent, as much as possible. Because I've had parents who say, I told you never to bring such a person here. That might not work. So that friendship stage, if you navigate it well, a child will use your resources as a good friendship point. But not someone who is forcing them to their way
and imposing. It's so interesting that that there's a stage called friendship, because I think that one of the mistakes that parents make is trying to be friends with their children. Maybe when it's not yet time.
They
should be coaching, they are trying to be friends.
No, when they are supposed to be disciplining, they
are trying to be friends.
And I mean, I know I've made a statement here that our children are not looking for a friend in us. They are looking for a good parent. By the time you make it to 19, then you've qualified to be among the friends. But don't try to be a friend to your child when they need to be disciplined. And that's why I think we talked about the styles of parenting. Parents who are permissive. You say, oh, if I punish this child, if I withdraw a reward, they are going to hate me because they are desperate to be a friend. But that's not what it is. Just walk through and make sure at every stage you try to maximize that. And that's why we are giving this information. Make sure that at a point when you are introducing discipline, you're not scared. You're not worried about this child hating you. A child can't hate you.
No,
in fact, we've seen that when a child goes back and they missed out on being taught discipline, on being trained, on being coached on certain things, and they've made mistakes, they tend to hate that parent.
That they never taught them.
So a parent should not be scared that when you're teaching them, and it's going to be hard. It's going to be hard. Punishment and all this. It's going to be hard. And so a parent should not be scared that a child will hate them. No.
And I think in my very short experience, I feel like children are very resilient in the sense that even when they are punished by their parents, it's not something that they dwell on. You won't find a child going 3 days without talking to the mother because the mom, disciplined him, or they will usually, I think, receive the beating. It's painful, it sucks, maybe cry a little, sulk for a couple of hours, and then they are back to, this is my favorite person in the whole world.
100%. And you see, the child, the moment, that's why I want to emphasize this. Please let the child know the why behind every word.
Yeah.
Don't get a child and punish them without explaining to them why you're punishing them. You see? Yeah. So when we get angry, some parents are angry. Mm-hmm. They're just angry. They get a child, hit them, pick them. They are rewarding themselves rather than teaching the child. Oh, wow. They're trying to release their anger onto the child, unleash the anger. Yeah. But they are not teaching the child. Mm-hmm. And one of the things I forgot, Rachel, and the discipline stage, the first stage, maybe I mentioned it, but let me emphasize it. As much as possible, reduce noise, reduce anger.
Yes.
Make sure that you teach with care for the biggest part. Yes, there is a part for punishment, yes, inflicting pain, but let not inflicting pain be the primary thing at discipline stage, because a child is going to be disoriented. They will always know, they will be scared, but to be scared doesn't help in learning.
Yep.
No.
Yep.
So punish where you must, but as much as possible, care. Teach with care. Teach with care. Yeah. If someone has done a very disgraceful thing, sit and tell them, and if you have to punish them, let it come after you have explained.
That's true. There has to be an explanation.
An explanation. Because then a child won't understand. They will always know that mom is an angry person or dad is an angry person, and so they will get scared, but that doesn't sustain anything.
No.
They just need to have something imprinted on the brain, and it is processed well enough for them to practice it.
That's true.
Right?
Yeah. So aside from being angry and sometimes wanting to be friends with your child when you should be disciplining them, are there other mistakes that parents make in these stages? Mm-hmm. Can we talk through them so that they can be aware?
Okay, so yes, we talked about being angry. We talked about being permissive.
Yes.
And we've also talked about giving rules without explanation. Not balancing rules and warmth.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Not balancing rules and warmth. And let me emphasize this, because when we don't know that, a child gets confused, because sometimes parents only show up when there is a mistake, when there is a crisis. But how about when they are doing the right thing?
Reward them.
Reward them.
Yeah.
Don't take that for granted, and reward doesn't mean you go to the supermarket to buy a gift.
Buy something.
No. Yes. Validate what they have done and tell them, oh, this is really good. This is really good. But also, it's part of the positive reinforcement.
Yes.
We fail to do positive reinforcement. We fail to discover when a child is doing great things. We ignore that. You see, we ignore that. And so positive reinforcement is so important.
Yeah.
So show up also when a child is doing well. And then, of course, the other mistake is for us to compare. Compare children. Yeah, why don't you be like this one? I read a comment, I think, on one of our shows where someone was sharing their, is it a testimony, and saying that throughout her journey of life, the parents were saying, why don't you be like your sibling? Why don't you be like your cousin? Why don't you be like a TV celebrity? Why don't you be like... So that is a horrible mistake. Nurture this child to be a unique person. Yeah. Don't try to compare them with any other person. And I've also told parents, I don't know how many of us adults get motivated by being compared with someone else.
It's demotivating.
Yeah, they say, why don't you're not a good husband? Why don't you be like Bishop? I don't know who.
Ouch. Ouch.
Who gets motivated? It's very, very belittling.
Yeah.
So we have to avoid that. We have to avoid comparing. The other mistake, Rachel, is for parents not knowing that every child is unique and taking time to know that, to understand that the unique elements of a child, that they could be pluses and negatives, but it is okay.
Sure.
Try to know, because otherwise, once again, it's going to lead you to comparison. We've also talked about the mistake of imposing ourselves, imposing our, we create a template of ourselves and try to fit the child. Be like me.
Yes.
Right? That is also a problem. The other day, I mean, there are multiple, but you see, the other danger is parents forgetting that they went through life as well. They also evolved. Now, one of the things that happens is that parents have forgotten when they were a child. As a matter of fact, some of the things children are doing are mirroring the younger version of ourselves.
Absolutely.
So if you have gone through life and you've been able to outgrow certain things, then you need to have hope and know that this child actually will also outgrow. Now, when parents don't acknowledge this, they're just comparing themselves with the older version of themselves, with the child, the improved version, having learned lessons.
All these lessons,
You see? Now, that is terrible. We need to know that a child is a child. And they'll go through the stages. They'll make mistakes. It doesn't mean they are doomed. They're not doomed. And I know, as parents, it's hard. It's hard. No parent wants to see their child make mistakes.
That's true.
Because we've been there and we know some of the challenges we've encountered, the disasters we have endured, the consequences we have dealt with, and we wish our children not to go through that. But if you don't want them to do that, explain to them. We keep quiet. We don't want to share our lives. I don't know any parent, if you've ever sat down with your children and told them some of the dramatic things you did.
Been through,
I've shared some with my children. Not so sure that I've shared everything. But some that you're able to share, please do. I shared a story with them when I was little, and our moms told us not to. There was a cobra that used to come and take water from our well. Can you imagine how dangerous that was? And then they told us, always, if we are to fetch water, then we should fetch water in early morning, because it would come around 1 o'clock when the sun is
out.
So they told us never to go to the well at that time. So what did we do? I'm sharing my life. So I went with 2 of my friends, and we went to the well around 11. But we decided to wait for the cobra.
Oh my gosh. Your curious minds.
So we waited. And it came. It came. So we saw the grass. So it approached the well. We had fetched our water, put it somewhere, and waited with stones.
Oh my goodness.
You see? So this thing came. And when it came, we started throwing stones. So it would just do this. And then we run. Then we come back. Then we throw stones. Now, how much time did I spend at the well? Now, when I told our children that story, I went back home and, oh my God, what my mom did to me.
She was not amused.
You see? So we have, when I told that story, our children are like, so you were also mischievous. Now we need to normalize this as parents, because we tend to present ourselves as a perfect version of life, and then our children are the wicked version. They are not. They are not. They're just growing. And some of us have done unthinkable things.
That's true.
But we don't want to share that. So I want to encourage parents, please pull out something. Of course, you're not going to share some of the ridiculous things you have done. But there are certain things that we can share. Let us normalize it. Let's put a human face to our teaching,
That's true.
to our nurturing. Otherwise, children are going to think, they're going to lose hope. They will say, really, what's wrong with me? Because my father, my mom, they are perfect. So what's wrong with me? So those are some of the mistakes that we really make.
And I think extending grace should happen, I think, even in your parenting journey.
100%.
Like you've aptly pointed out, you were a child once.
Yes.
You did unthinkable things. Your parent, yes, maybe punished you, but they believed in you and still raised you to the person that you are today. And I find that often, even me, there are times where I have to catch myself and say, but Rachel, you're constantly nitpicking on what he's not doing and what he's doing wrong. And sometimes you just need to add a little grace to your parenting, and it will make all the difference.
100%. You just remind me of the magic statement that every parent needs to practice and say to the children, I believe in you.
That's it.
I believe in you. Let me tell you, when you do that, you're calling out their spirit. And not to say it in a fake manner, but be authentic as you say it. When you say, I believe in you, they're going to say, really? Yes. And don't just say yes, yes, but you also have to touch on certain things.
Point out why.
Point out some of the things. You're great here, you're great there, you're great there. So just the fact that you have failed here and we've fought over this doesn't mean you're finished. A child needs to hear that, because you see, a parent's words are not some random casual words.
They carry weight.
They carry life.
Yeah.
You see, they are eternal. And so those words, they go to a child's spirit and imprint there. And so we need to be very careful what we say to the child. Because, and you remind me of one other mistake I'm going to talk about, killer words. But we need to plant positive words, life-giving words. They need to hear, my dad believes in me. Even when they are failing, they need to hear, mommy believes in me. Daddy believes, especially dads. Please, dads, you're symbols of authority. Please tell your child that you believe in them. You see, however broken. Because while they are down there, they need to hear a word that can pull them up. You see, and not to say it in moments when they need to be punished, but find a time. Find a time to say you believe in your child.
Absolutely.
Because there's something great about them. Now, can I just smuggle this in? Killer words. Killer words. A parent, you have to be very careful what you say to your child. Because if you say, I don't even know how you ended up here, you're stupid, you know those labels. The label that you put on a child, they will measure up to it.
Because you're a symbol of authority.
You are a symbol of authority, and those words are powerful. They are not market level words. No, they are powerful. So if you put a word that is killer, you see, then a child is going to measure up to that. They cannot go beyond that.
Imagine.
That's why later on, when someone else is trying to say, oh, you're wonderful, they go like, really?
I don't believe
really,
that,
because they haven't, their spirit hasn't gone beyond the label that you put. So let's be careful. Let's be careful. When we are teaching children, let's separate the what from who. If they've done a silly thing, then separate it from the person. It is, you've done a silly thing, but you're not silly.
You're not silly. Yes.
Those two are different. But if you say you're silly, you're stupid, you're, I don't know what else, those labels that parents put, be careful, because if you put them, they will never get off. But if you put positive labels on a child, and I always encourage parents, please put as many positive labels, so that the world has no space to put negative labels. Because the world has no time to nurture your child. Actually, they expect a finished product.
That's it.
That's why they always ask, where did this person grow up from? Who raised this person? Them? You see, because they expect that you, the parent, has done a good job. So for them, they come like, you're like chicken bone. They are eating meat off you. They are not building you. They expect a finished product. So for us parents, let's be careful what words we say to children.
Yeah. We really need to, and I think it comes from understanding your position as a parent. You're not just a mom, you're not just a dad. You hold such power in this child's
So
life,
much
you know.
power.
And like we said at the start, you are raising this child to be the next generation, you know, to be the next business leader or to be the next, you know, but they need to have that fortitude and that grounding and foundation which comes from home.
True, you're nurturing an adult,
Yes.
not a child.
Not a child.
No, you're nurturing an adult.
So think about the end.
Yes,
the
you
end
have
goal.
to. You have to think about the end. You're raising the next CEO. You're raising the next politician. You're raising the next pastor. You're raising the next wife and husband.
This is true.
You see, that's why I ask parents, especially stage 3, which is coaching. That stage, I always challenge parents, all of us parents, let's look at our children and ask, if I married my daughter, would I be happily married?
Happy.
If my boy, if this boy was my husband, would I be happily married? And so we need to do that so that when we are raising these children, we are not creating a burden for society.
Yeah.
And I'm a parent, all of us, let's be mindful. For society,
Yep.
you know, will your child hold down a job? Will they hold relationships? Will they respect people? Will they respect their leader? You know, the dad's presence. That is leadership. That is also authority. Now we are seeing children who cannot live under any authority, respect any authority.
Yeah.
They say, you're not my dad. Because dad didn't instill that sense. Yeah, so we need to be very careful about the kind of person we are launching into the world. How would they live with other people?
Yeah.
You know, how would they treat their partner and others?
Yeah. Finally, Dr. Evers, I want to ask, since we're speaking about parents, how do I prepare myself for these stages? Because you talked about, you know, maybe being in the 0 to 5 and someone is launching their career, you know, in that stage, or the teenage stage shows up and you are not ready, so you're picking ideas from the 0 to 5 and to try and manage the coaching stage. So how do we prepare ourselves mentally, emotionally, but also like information, you know, reading up to be able to transition through these stages smoothly?
Yeah. Number one is what you've just alluded to, information. You see, scripture talks about, above everything, get knowledge and get understanding. Unfortunately, Rachel, parenting, marriage, these are the areas crucial. And we even say it, oh, you know, family is the bedrock of society. But unfortunately, these are the areas we gamble at.
That's true.
Unfortunately. For instance, I've told people that we are likely to parent the way we were parented. Some of us don't like how we were parented, but we think it can pass. Yeah.
We say, we turned out okay.
We turned out okay, but you haven't actually. I remember one time someone told me, our dad was ever absent. Every time he showed up, he beat us, he did that. Didn't we turn out? I said, no. You didn't. You see, some of us are carrying traumatic experiences from childhood. We actually hate the way we were parented. We, of course, don't hate our parents because we've come, you know, to a stage where we have, you know, we're just indifferent about. But we tend to parent the way we were parented. If we had a permissive parent, actually looking back, we don't like the way they parented us. But the natural thing is that you don't have anything, an alternative in your head. Then you're going to parent the way you were parented.
Yeah.
But going back to the statement we started with, parenting is a skill, and every skill is learned.
Yes.
So I really want to encourage people, please learn. There are resources. There are parenting sessions that we do.
Yes.
Attend deliberately, because you're going to gamble. There's so much we talk about, the different personalities, the different parenting styles, that all. you have to pick skill, because this is skill. So as much as possible, get knowledge, get understanding. Secondly is to know that parenting is huge responsibility. It's raising another person.
That's true.
And so when we adjust our thinking to that, because I've seen parents who want, they want to be comfortable. They get inconvenienced by parenting. And little wonder now, and they don't want to sound insensitive, I've said this, we now have children, 2.5 years, 3 years in boarding school.
Yeah, it's happening.
Boarding kindergarten.
Yeah.
And what happens is that for some reasons, again, I don't know about your reasons, but I just want to say, make sure that the decisions you're making are not meant to make it convenient for you. Because if you make it convenient for yourself at an early stage, you're going to be dealing with consequences, dire consequences.
Much later. Yeah.
And so that I really want parents to know that it's a tough job, but it has to be done right.
Yeah.
You're going to be inconvenienced. You're going to have to change your priorities. It's going to feel different, because now when you didn't have children, you had freedom. You see, this responsibility takes away a little bit of freedom, but introduces responsibility that is going to create more joy and all. So we need to, one of the things parents need to do is to know that it is a hard job, but it needs to be done right.
Sure.
So mindset is everything.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that you're not inconvenienced. And the third thing, Rachel, is for parents to know that they have to be in the lives of these children. You're not going to nurture children in absentia. In absentia, no. And to say to parents, one of the things that comforts me is to know that my children are going to be children during a certain season, and then it will be over. You see? So let's not lose that window, because if we lose the window of nurturing at this point, we are going to deal with broken adults.
Sure.
And it is going to be very painful, because you see, I'm still my mom's child.
Yeah.
You see? A child will be your child forever. But you need to give yourself assurance that you're doing a good job. Because if you do a bad job, you're going to live a life of regret later on.
Yeah.
So let's try as much as possible. None of us is going to be a perfect parent. Not even, I've told people that it's much easier to be a parenting coach
than it is
to be a parent. So it is hard. It is hard. And especially if you have more than one child. Hey, each child is a full-time job.
Yes.
So you need to discover them, you need to nurture them in their uniqueness, and it's going to require time. And parenting, it requires time.
That's true.
We have to be available, we have to have quality time, we have to have quantity time, because you're not going to guide a child that is a stranger to you and you are a stranger to.
Yeah.
You can't.
Yeah.
So we need to create time. That's why we talk about work-family balance. That's why we talk about parents. Please commit to being with children. You're not going to train children just because you sleep at home. No. Because, and I've said it here, let me repeat it, that you can still be an absentee parent even when you sleep at home.
Yeah. Maybe that's the worst kind.
Yeah, because you enter when children are sleeping, you go back when they are sleeping, you don't know, you don't attend their class activities, you don't know their teachers, you don't know anything. But then you say, but I sleep home. And I've heard this from parents. They say, I sleep home.
You go home.
I go home. But how much of your child do you know? How much of what they do? How many of their friends do you know? Who do they associate with? How do you pay interest in that? You know, are you in their lives, or you're just a parent?
Yeah. Thank you so much for this information. I don't know if you have any parting shots, even as we bring this to a close.
Well, just to say that parenting is difficult, but it's worth doing, right?
It is.
Number two, reminding parents that this child is growing. And so we need, number one, to be in their lives, but also to know that at different stages, we also need to adjust our parenting style.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be the same all through. That's why we are discussing different stages of parenting. But also to know that parenting, it's just a window, it's a season. Nurturing your child, because this person is not going to be a child forever. And also to remind parents that, please, when you're parenting, have an end in mind. This is not your little child. You're raising the next generation.
Yeah.
And so how will it look like? Will they solve the current problems of society, or will they add to the problems? So I think that is important.
That's important. Yeah. Thank you very much, Dr. Evas. I also believe part of raising children is taking care of their physical health. There's some amazing supplements that are available here at the Suma Coffee House and Wellness Center. This one is for sharp vision, so if you would like for your child's eyesight to be maintained, you want to start giving them that supplement. This one is vitamin C. There are so many flus and colds going around. Boost their immunity by giving them this. And this one is calcium and vitamin D3. Also, I think perfect for bones and their immunity as well. So come by or order these. We'll again put the number in our description box. This one is for you, the parent. As you age, you want to take care of those joints and your bones. This one's called Zamino Cal Plus, and wonderful, wonderful supplements. Yes, if you're dealing with arthritis as well, that would be perfect for you. And all these are available at the Suma Coffee House and Wellness Center right here in Kamucha at Total Energies, right opposite Acacia Mall, which is where we are shooting from. This lovely, lovely space. You can come through, have healthy drinks, smoothies, juices, and just have a nice, quiet place. Do your work, think, reflect.
And lunch, and meals.
Yes, and your meals as well. All of that is available to you right here. Thank you once again for joining us. Of course, we'd love to hear from you, so let us know in our comment section what you have picked from this session, and if there's anything that you'd like for us to expound on, a question, a comment, a concern. We'd love to hear from you. Until next week, stay well, stay healthy, and keep it reality check. Bye-bye.